welcome Sam Seaton. Sam, how are you?
I'm very good. Very good. Thank you for having me. It's fun, right? It's fun to be doing this together.
Yes, it definitely is. You're most welcome. So welcome to the Your Financial Journey podcast. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
Fintech is at the forefront of many financial changes. Where does Moneyhub stand in these changes?
Moneyhub is definitely, at the heart of the disruption. It's really right that the consumer is the champion here. So I really think we've got to be consumer focused. Any business in this today has to be consumer focused. So what we do at Moneyhub is help companies to be more consumer focused. So I think the resistance slightly from a lot of companies is that it's very easy to say you're customer centric, but saying and doing, in life is two different things.
We do have a bit in common, so I thought I'd highlight those things first. We're definitely females in finance, and I think that's quite an important factor to mention because it is still the minority and has been for quite a significant time. And I know you are very passionate about making change and making a difference, and that is just a joy to see. But also, we also had a desire to enter completely different fields away from finance, and interestingly enough, found ourselves in a world of finance, which I'll touch upon a bit later. But tell me a bit about your journey and how you got to where you are today.
Well, so my journey is really been what I would call all over the place. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's quite fun to have crooked lines, as you like. I've always been intrigued by logic. So that's what really drew me to computer science, or in effect tech. But the big thing that stood out to me since then, so since the year of 2000 really through to now, is that at that time it was all about the internet. It was all about coming off spreadsheets, going onto models, making them accessible via the internet rather than the way that we were used to working prior to that. But the big change from that point on, for me, for financial services, is really about the consumer. So I learned very early on the way financial services works, and I still think it's like this today, maybe to a lesser degree, but it's just that the consumer doesn't really know what they're buying. I just think the consumer still struggles to understand what they're buying when they buy financial products.
Yes, I agree.
And it just doesn't sit well with me. I understand that you're going to have different products and services. Some will be expensive, some will be really cheap, some will do something very specific, some will be broad. I think they're all valuable in our world. We should have choice. Consumers should definitely have choice. But I just want the consumer to understand what they're buying, and genuinely they can hopefully make that match, so that it's a fit match for them and what they're trying to do in their life.
Yes, and I feel that Moneyhub within itself is perfectly positioned in terms of providing diversity and choice, and also giving the individual, regardless of whether of their wealth status, an opportunity to manage their finances. What would you add to that?
Yeah, so I think that's exactly true. So I think one of the things about financial services as an industry is we tend to try and pigeonhole people.
Yes.
I think we need to be a little bit more broad in our thinking. And I think if we can be broader in our thinking, we'll reach a wider audience quicker, which I think would be a good thing. So taking what we do, for really traditionally the high net worth individuals, and making that available to the mass market, massive benefit for everyone. For the businesses providing the services, and also for the mass market. So I'm a big advocate of that. And I actually think the only way we can do that is through using technology. So I think that is the bit that unlocks that.
The importance of harnessing the power of tech was one of the things that you mentioned. Tell me a bit about what you learned about money growing up, and how that's really, added to your experiences and what you've done today.
The thing that, for me, that stood out to me is that money really is an enabler. So so I'm not fascinated by money itself, which I know a lot of my colleagues in this industry are fascinated by money itself.
I think I might be one.
For me, money's always been something of an enabler. It's something that you need in order to do things you want to do. And some of us have, more significant demands. I mean, if you want to run a Formula One car team, you're going to need deep pockets, right? So, and then other people actually, genuinely want to, climb mountains, and they'll need a certain amount of money to do that. But they're very different, desires and different cost models. Some people, want to have a large family, all these different things that you want to do. To me, money is an enabler. In fact, I've got a funny story to tell you. In fact, my horse,
I'm intrigued.
My horse taught me at age 5 about inflation. Can you believe that? So
age 5. No, wait a minute. Tell me how he actually broke it down to the point you understood at age 5.
You've just reminded me about this funny story. I must tell you. So what happened is my parents owned a village shop, like it kind of all the convenience. Western Australia, it was in Perth, and I at age 5 my job was to stack the PAL, which is the dog food, on the bottom shelf. I used to stack that, and the redhead matches. That was my job.
Okay.
And I used to apparently spend hours lining them all up and getting them all the right labels and the right brand, which I suspect my parents thought was amazing, right? Because she's occupied for at least God knows how long, right?
Yes.
But she's out of our head. Anyway, one day my dad said to me, "You've got to take all the price stickers," because in those days you had little white stickers with the price on.
Yes.
You've got to take them all off, and we're putting new stickers on. And then I said to Dad, well, why are we taking all the stickers off and putting new ones on? And he said, because every year prices go up. And at which point I promptly burst into tears, because I was busy saving for my first horse with my, piggy bank. I did not have enough money to buy the horse, right?
Right.
And that horse is going up in price every year. That doesn't work, does it? I'll never get it. So I was in tears, apparently, in front of the dog food, in tears, because now I can never buy my horse. I'm saving for this horse. It's going up every year. I haven't got enough money now. I'll never have enough money. That was my 5-year-old brain at work. So I did a deal apparently at age 5 with my dad, who he agreed to fund the shortfall that this inflation pressure would cause.
And that motivated you subconsciously to save more for your horse.
So
that is amazing. I love. What difficulties do you see then people facing? Because it's amazing that you was able to, learn that at 5 years old, and I'm assuming that's definitely, helped shape the way that you look at money today quite differently. But you do find that people don't learn these things until 20s, 30s, and sometimes later. I was recently doing a poll out there on social media. When did you start taking money seriously? And, there was a lot of comeback of 30s and above. And so what kind of difficulties do you see people facing? And how do you think that they could be dealing with their financial difficulties quite differently?
Well, I think going back to being, we've got to be realistic. Not everyone is going to do the right things. It's not just with money, is it? I mean, you can look at all sorts of parts of our lives that, I don't know, we should exercise regularly, we should eat lots of fruit and vegetables. There's lots of things we don't do necessarily.
Yeah.
And I think it's no different with money. And it shouldn't, the only thing that I struggle with a little bit is it seems to be a bit of a judgment with money.
Yes, so true.
Bad with money. It's like, whereas if you don't eat all your greens, it's like it's not so bad. It's very strange. Let's not get hung up on the fact that some people are not going to eat all their greens, right? So I'd like to try and do more to automate some of that. So I'd like to make it a bit more, I guess, accessible in terms of doing. So we talk about compounding. We talk about make it a bit more that just happens. Rather than you having to make it happen, or if you'd have to figure it out and then go and put that in place, because I think that's where it will fall down a bit.
I think if you can make finances as part of your daily routine, you would be so much more confident in, attacking the financial difficulties that you have. And I think it comes more naturally then, just dealing with it from day to day, as opposed to leaving it things and letting them pile up.
And you've only got to look at the success we've had, in the fitness world with Fitbit. We would be crazy to think that won't touch our financial lives in the same way. We're definitely on the right trajectory now in terms of being able to do that.
to highlight something really important to me. You are a huge inspiration, and I think you've gone through great lengths to achieve what you've achieved today, becoming the CEO of Moneyhub. How do you define success?
Oh, for me, it's very simple. It's making a difference. I would say I have been born that way. I don't think I've done anything particularly. I just think sometimes you're. I'm a great believer in things are meant to be, and I think sometimes
Yeah.
which is why I'm also a big believer in diversity, because I think if you bring lots of different people together, different backgrounds and different approaches, then I think you will get the best outcome, especially for a business or for a decision that you need to make, because it will be truly informed. And I really believe that. Someone told me, which never made any sense, but actually just goes to show, they told about the fact that in the army, apparently the very top, of the hierarchy, they want those people to be really, really bright, but lazy. I couldn't get my head around it. And they said because really bright, lazy people will wade in when they have to sort something out. And then as soon as they can, they'll step back and do nothing, right? That's apparently an essential element, because actually you want to get everyone galvanized to do what you need to do to achieve the goal. And then you need someone to step back. And then obviously if something goes wrong, or you need them to be able to step up and go, oh, no, let's do this. And then as soon as that's happened, they're like, yeah, it's all good. We can sit back again. And left to my own devices, it wouldn't occur to me to maybe have a lazy team member. It's like, well, what lazy team member? I mean, but actually just goes to show.
Yes, it could. For evaluating purposes, it could serve some benefits. And what has money naturally done for you then, in terms of or becoming a CEO, being in a position to make that difference? What has that naturally done for you, and what are you striving to achieve going forward?
Well, so I think so for me, money has enabled me to live a life that I feel very privileged to have lived. Not everyone gets to save up and buy a horse. That's one thing. But I think being the CEO of Moneyhub, my real feeling is that I would like to make a difference in terms of how we all work and live, because I'm a massive believer in the work-life balance.
I think that's really important, because it's not just creating financial balance for yourself, it's also creating that for your employees and the wellness of them. And I think naturally it's a smart move from any CEO, because I just think that the employees end up working a lot more smarter and they value the company a lot more. I read about doing some research. You wanted to once pursue a career in the medical sector as a nurse. Now, originally I wanted to become a doctor. So I'm interested in finding out how you made that shift. For me, it was quite a swift one, and almost one that I never had much say so in. It was kind of an overnight thing. Went around, was searching for part-time work within the financial banking sector, and that they said, oh no, we want somebody like you full-time. And I was just like, I'm going to go for it. I'm letting go my dreams of becoming a doctor. What was it like for you in terms of the switch into finance?
So it was the switch from nursing to my computer science degree, actually. So
right.
So rather than finance per se, which obviously, but I guess that degree led to finance eventually. I actually wanted to go and ride racehorses when I left school, once I left school, which my father was having absolutely none.
Amazing.
It's like, you're not
yes, after he covered the shortfall.
Yeah, it's like, so that was not an option as far as he was concerned. But he was quite clever about it. So he didn't say you could never do that, because I guess he knew me well enough to know that probably wasn't going to work. So he said that I don't care. This is his words exactly to me. He said, I don't care what you do, but you're going to university. And he said, once you've got your degree, you can go and ride racehorses if that's still what you want to do. And I think he was wise enough to know that after completing my university degree, there was quite a strong chance I would no longer want to go and ride racehorses for a living. And he was right. So, and I'm busy picking whatever subject you need to get into nursing, for the equivalent of A-levels. And he says to me, I don't think you're going to make a very good nurse. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm not going to make a very good nurse? He said, I just don't think you've got the patience to be a nurse. And I really threw me. And he said, I want, and I'm like, well, what do you mean? He said, well, have you thought about any other careers? I'm like, not really. So anyway, he sat me down with the paper in those days when all the jobs were advertised in the paper. I remember accountant was one of the first ones I came across. He said, do you think you want to be an accountant? I'm like, what does an accountant do? And he's telling me, oh no, that sounds terrible. I want to be that. And we kept going. And at the very end, there was a job called systems analyst.
Right.
And I said to him, well, what is that? And he described, he said, well, it's something to do with computing. There you go. That's how I ended up not being a nurse.
Sam, you have a wealth of knowledge, and I could sit and chat with you for hours about so much stuff. It's been amazing. But before we leave, I definitely want to find out your top 3 tips that you would give to our listeners to help them improve on their own personal financial journey.
My top 3 tips are really genuinely appreciate and understand the impact of compounding. I just think if you can appreciate the fact that whatever you do now, in terms of saving or putting money away, or even spending, that's, the impact that compounding has is massive, and just use it to your advantage rather than to your disadvantage. My second tip is that you shouldn't obsess about money. I mean, money is something that you need to do what you want to do, but you need to focus on what you enjoy doing. I think someone said to me that by focusing on what you enjoy doing, in effect, the money follows. If you do what you enjoy doing and do it to your best of your ability, the money will probably enable you to live the life you want to live anyway, in general. So put your heart and soul into what you enjoy. So don't try and do it the other way round. And I guess my third piece of advice would be that make mistakes fast. So the one thing I look back is that I'd like to have done what I've done quicker. So I'd like to,
right.
And I think the only way you can do it faster is by making more mistakes quicker. Because I don't care what anyone says, you learn from your own mistakes and you can't avoid it. So it doesn't matter how much you watch, get on with it. The only way you're going to learn to walk is by doing it. And you are definitely going to fall over. You're definitely going to have grazed knees and bumped heads and tears. But do it, because the quicker you do that, the quicker you'll get to where you want to do. And that's the one thing I would say is, crack on, make mistakes, fall over, get back up, keep going.
I absolutely love that. And I've definitely taken away that piece of continuing to make mistakes, because that's how you learn. And so I think somebody said that it's not mistakes, they're lessons, they're learning curves in your life. And I think that's really important living in the world that we are in today. I think it's important to make those mistakes and then learn from them and do something better. And that can definitely be applied with finances as well. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. And it was a pleasure having you on the Your Financial Journey podcast.